The elevator kept going up in silence. Mr. Stark had called me some minutes ago and said I had to go to the lab ASAP. Leslie had spent the day packing. I had told her that they had located Strucker, so she said that we didn't need to stay in the Stark Tower anymore. I disagreed profusely. We didn't know if they had got him yet, but I didn't want to argue with her today, especially after having the most civic evening we had had in years. The elevator stopped and the doors opened. I sat on one of the chairs and waited for Mr. Stark to come. I didn't have to wait long before he and Dr. Banner walked into the room. "What's the rumpus?" Dr. Banner said. I could clearly hear the dread in his voice. "Well, the scepter," Mr. Stark said. He looked up and noticed me. "Ah, you're here too. Good." "Kira, I thought you'd be home," Dr. Banner said. "Yeah, me too," I said. "But I was summoned." He smirked. "Well, I'm glad to see you," he told me. "Thank you, Doctor," I said with a tight smile. Mr. Stark cleared his voice, waiting for us to shut up. "You were saying," Dr. Banner said. "What's that?" I interrupted yet again. I pointed towards the latest object in the room, a silver crane-like thing that had a blue orb attached to it. "A scepter," Mr. Stark said. "Were you around when aliens invaded New York?" I rose my brow. Everybody remembered that, even if they weren't in New York at the time. "Yeah," he continued smug. "And I saved everyone?" "Well," Dr. Banner started, but Mr. Stark rose a hand. "I saved everyone," he repeated. "I'm the one who redirected a missile to their ships through a magical portal, right?" "Right," Dr. Banner conceded, probably just to shut him up. "Well, Thor's brother, Loki, was the one behind the attack," he continued explaining. "That's his scepter." "Why do you have it?" I said, moving closer to touch it. I had never seen alien tech up close, so I wanted to examine it. "Strucker had it. Don't touch it," Mr. Stark warned. "It can mess with your mind." I stopped. Suddenly examining alien tech seemed less appealing. "Just take a look at the orb," he told me. Inside I saw there was a little gem that glowed faintly. "You see, we were wondering how Strucker got so inventive," he said. He grabbed one of his tablets while Dr. Banner shoved his hands into his lab coat pockets, waiting for a point to all of this. "So, I've been analyzing the gem inside," Mr. Stark continued, as he threw a hologram to the middle of the room, where Dr. Banner was standing. "You may recognize," he trailed off. An orange 3D image of Jarvis' consciousness appeared surrounding Dr. Banner. He stepped out of it. "Jarvis," he acknowledged. "Doctor?" Jarvis said. "Started out, Jarvis was just a natural language UI. Now he runs the Iron Legion. He runs more of the business than anyone besides Pepper." Dr. Banner hummed, following Mr. Stark's thoughts. "Top of the line," Mr. Stark stated, pointing at Jarvis. "Yes," Dr. Banner agreed. "I suspect not for long," Jarvis said. Mr. Stark walked over to the scepter and, with the tablet, got some schematics of it. I frowned. How would a scepter have schematics? It couldn't have code inside. It made no sense. Then again, there were so many things that could be possible that we just didn't understand yet. "Meet the competition," Mr. Stark said. He threw those schematics right next to Jarvis, and a huge blue hologram appeared. It was so intricate. I was automatically dumbfounded. It moved constantly. Little segments flaring up in random order. It was amazing. "It's beautiful," Dr. Banner said, taking the words right out of my mouth. He moved closer to get a better look at it. I did the same. "If you had to guess," Mr. Stark said, "what's it look like it's doing?" "Like it's thinking," Dr. Banner and I said at the same time. If there was something in common in all AIs in the world, it was the misconceptions people had of them. AI was always represented as a huge brain that also had little wires. And it was always blue. Jarvis at least was orange. I guessed in an attempt for Mr. Stark's part to get as far away from stereotypes as possible. This one, though, was blue, and it actually resembled a brain. Maybe not the shape, but definitely the way neurons worked. There were little highlights that ran across all the hologram before shutting down and starting new ones. He was mesmerized, while I was confused. Where had this come from? I mean, this could be a... Dr. Banner continued, lost in his own thoughts. It's not a human mind. Mr. Stark shook his head. No, it wasn't. It had come from the scepter. I walked over to the scepter and tried to take a better look without touching it. I couldn't even see a motherboard. So how was this possible? I mean, look at this, Dr. Banner said. They're like neurons firing. Down at Strucker's lab, I saw some fairly advanced robotics work, Mr. Stark said ominously. They deep-sixed the data. But I gotta guess he was knocking on a very particular door. Artificial intelligence, I said, and Mr. Stark nodded. A genuine smile appeared on my face for the first time in a long time. This was amazing. This was exactly what I was waiting for. This could be it, Mr. Stark said, knowing what I was thinking. This could be the key to creating Ultron. I thought Ultron was a fantasy, I said quietly, still smiling. I wanted him to say it, to give me the green light to keep working on it. Yesterday it was, he said. If we can harness his power, apply it to my Iron Legion protocol... That's a mad-sized if, Dr. Banner said. I wanted to shush him. This was not the moment to be pessimistic. This was the first step towards our eureka moment. Mr. Stark saw my annoyed face and made a gesture, telling me to calm down. He grabbed Dr. Banner and walked around the room. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but I knew he was trying to convince him. I stared at the 3D image. It was so intricate. I couldn't even start to imagine how this was possible. How big was his program? We needed to crack this. Not only we could use it for the Iron Legion, but we could also use this for almost everything in our lives. The way we were living would become almost archaic once proper AI was introduced. Sure, we needed to be careful about how it was used, but as long as we were the ones creating it, we would have control over it. This could change the world. Peace in our time, Mr. Stark said, coming from around the corner with Dr. Banner behind. Imagine that. I grinned. This would change the world. We worked non-stop for 3 days. That was the time we had before Thor had to take the scepter away. We were trying to create an integrating software to link the data from the scepter to the Iron Legion program. Every time our screens turned red and the message of integration failed appeared, we wanted to quit, or at least to stop for a few hours. We knew we didn't have that privilege, but the second that damn message turned green, everything would have been worth it. Fueled by the thought of success, we ignored the frustration we felt every time the simulations that Jarvis ran failed, and we kept going. 3 days later, our time was almost up, and we were still banging our heads against the wall of ignorance that surrounded us. What did we miss? Mr. Stark whispered. I rubbed my face. I really needed some sleep. I'll continue to run variations on the interface, Jarvis said. But you should probably prepare for your guests. I'll notify you if there are any developments. Oh shit, I whispered. The party. Mr. Stark was having a celebration for finally having beaten Hydra, and the party was tonight. He snapped out of his trance, stood up, and walked towards the door. Thanks, buddy, he said. I didn't move. I was too frustrated, looking at that screen and the stupid little message that was about to pop up. Integration failed. Fuck. Why wasn't it working? Damn it. Aren't you coming? I heard Mr. Stark ask. He had stopped at the door and was waiting for me. I looked at him and then at the screen. I think I'm going to stay here for a little while, if you don't mind, I said. He nodded. Don't break anything, he joked. I'll try. I'll see you later, he said. Enjoy yourself, sir, Jarvis said. I always do, he responded. Mr. Stark left me in the lab with only Jarvis to keep me company. He kept running simulations and forming reports of the failures. I read them, but I couldn't figure out what to do to fix it. I just let Jarvis change the order of some of the boot instructions and the parameters of the program. One of the tries took longer than usual. It could mean two things. It was either working, or it had entered an infinite loop, and no exception was programmed for it. In other words, it was stuck. Taking care of those kinds of things was my job, so I took a closer look at it. To my surprise, in line 2371 of one of the integration scripts, there was a sleep function that only ended when it was notified that the connection with the server was false, which made no sense whatsoever. To connect the server, the program had to be running, which it wasn't because of the sleep function. Well, this is very stupid, I muttered. How the hell are you supposed to work if no one tells you to wake up? It must have been a typo. I must have been tired while coding that, and it must have escaped my mind. Thankfully, Mr. Stark wasn't here to see this glorious moment of mine. There you go. Try again, Jay, I said. The simulation started while I looked at the screen sitting on the edge of my chair. This could be it. This could be the one. Integration failed. God damn it, I whispered. I stood up and started pacing. This will be a potentially long wait, Miss Atwood, Jarvis said. May I suggest getting comfortable? Potentially long. Jarvis was right. I might as well get comfortable. I sat down again in front of the computer, rested my back on the chair, and put my legs up on the table. And I just started my eyes between the screen and the ceiling. Potentially long. I'll just take a nap. I was awoken by a strident beeping. I almost fell from the chair as I disentangled my legs and stood right to check the screen. It read, Integration completed, with beautiful green letters that I very much welcomed. I clicked to see the program running, expecting to see millions of variables appear and disappear on the prompt. But the window closed suddenly. No, I said. I had not closed it. I was sure. Did I break it? Did I stop it? I could die right now. No, I refused. Would I have to redo the whole process again? Did I break something? Had Jarvis kept a backup file? What had gone wrong? Jarvis, what happened? I asked. He didn't respond. Jarvis? I asked, frustrated. Apologies, he said in a weird voice as if he was running low on batteries. It seems I'm under a... The lights went off and on again. What the hell? I stood up. A blackout? I started hearing a buzzing like machines working, and I looked down, in the workshop that was right below the lab, which I could see through the glass floor. The machines were assembling an Iron Legion model. That was not supposed to be operating right now. Mr. Stark hadn't ordered that. Jarvis, did you start that? I asked but received no response. I decided to go down there and shut them off before they wasted more pieces. I took the stairs because I didn't trust the elevator after the blackout, and got to the workshop. I pressed the button to turn off the machines, and everything stopped moving. But then I heard a rattling, like chains being dragged, and from the darkness, 2 red spots lightened up. 2 red eyes. Hello? I said. Was this a prank? The rattling came closer, and the figure came into the light. It was a very unfinished Legionnaire suit. Jarvis, I asked. It stared at me, and, as stupid as the mere thought seemed to me, I could swear it looked angry. No, it said in a deep, threatening voice. I frowned, confused. Okay, I said, taking a hesitant step towards it. Stupid Mr. Stark and his stupid robots. Let's just put you back to sleep, I said. It looked around, confused, but not in the same way as I was. It seemed very confused with its surroundings, with it being there, confused with its own existence. Its eyes stalked on me again. No. It trailed off.